to this episode 43 of my kind of a podcast. Today, I would like to have a little conversation about something I saw on my FYP on TikTok recently, something that happened in a gym somewhere in the US. Before I start with giving any of my thoughts on the situation, I would like to begin by saying that I have no intentions of going into whether or not the people being discussed are trans or faking, because I know that there are some informations that came out that kind of discredited the trans woman being discussed in this story, and that kind of indicate that this person is kind of a grifter and is literally pretending to be trans in order to cause offense or some kind of disturbance. And this is not something that I would like to discuss. I do not want to speculate about this person's transness. I will explain my reason for that later on. But I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that from the beginning, that this is not what we are talking about today. So basically, the story is that there is a trans woman who was naked in a changing room in a gym, and another woman didn't like that and demanded that this person be removed from the gym. We are going to have a look at a video that shows the aftermath of that whole situation.
Gold's Gym! Men! Grown men with big dicks in the women's locker room. And that's why I'm getting kicked out. And I want to make sure the girls know. The fuck? Everybody saw that man in the fucking locker room. No one's saying shit. And I'm fucking done with it. It's fucking stupid. It's dangerous. Me naked in front of a man without my permission. But I ain't the one who gets kicked out the gym, y'all. I'm terminated for not wanting men in the locker room.
All right, so that was a lot. That was a lot. So in case you didn't really catch what she said, that there are men with big dicks in the locker rooms and that everybody saw it. And because she said something, she's getting kicked out of the gym. We're going to have a look at a quick video of the trans woman in question. I am not sure who took these images, but it looks like they were being filmed probably against their will and probably in a very antagonistic manner, because you can see that the person who is making the video is zooming in and out and in the person's face. And so this is the trans woman at the center of this issue. On top of those two different points of view, let's say, I saw another video of another woman who goes to that gym. She happens to also be a trans woman. She had a very interesting point of view in that she has been going to the gym for a very long time. She is trans and she never had any issues, whether with nudity or anything like that in the locker room. So let's see what she says about the situation.
Girl, this whole Gold's Gym is crazy. By now, we have all seen the video of the trans person in Gold's Gym. I actually attend that gym, and I knew this was going to happen. So the first time I saw the trans person, they were butterball naked, okay? So I walk into the locker room, and I'm going to the bathroom, and so I see it, I'm like, literally. My fam on here, y'all know I was sexually assaulted in May of 2023, so I get it, seeing somebody's, you know what, it's going to be very triggering in the locker room, in a space where women go to feel safe from that particular thing down there. But because I am also trans and I've had my own experience with the whole locker room debacle, which TikTok came to my side as well too, I just took y'all on a journey, child. I was just like, okay, is this a man? What is this? So I examined them, I saw the newly coming, tissue. So I was like, okay, so they're in their early stages of transition. The girls in there, they were not aligned. I was in this locker room at the same time this other trans person was in this locker room. They didn't have an issue with me in the locker room. This gym has never had an issue with me in the locker room. They had an issue with that other person in the locker room because of the fact that they kept being triggered by the sight of their private parts. In fact, when I was in the locker room that day, somebody literally went and complained about the person to the gym staff workers, and the gym staff workers came into the locker room and they thought that the people were complaining about me, but they was like, no, 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 she's good. We're complaining about that naked person right there.
Okay, I'm just gonna have to call them by their names because it is getting a bit too complicated. So the trans woman is Alexis, and the person who was complaining about her is Tish. Tish had an issue with Alexis being naked in the locker room because Tish had previous experiences with sexual assault. So just like the Madame Physique says in her video, a locker room is a place where women expect to be safe from men's genitals. That's the expectation that you have. And it had apparently been going on for weeks. They had been fighting over Alexis being naked in the locker rooms for weeks. Now that we have seen the way that Tish behaved herself after being told to leave the gym, do we expect her to have been nice and respectful towards Alexis when she asked her not to be naked in the gym? Wait, before we answer that, let's have a look at a couple more comments that Tish made.
Y'all need to stop trying to explain away this shit and act like, oh, some of us are not like that. We're just kikiing. No, we don't want you in the bathroom with us, yo. Y'all are men, no matter what. And there's nothing wrong with that, except when it's in the women's locker room. Can you not get that? One woman cannot consent for all. We do not want men in the locker room with their bits cut, with their bits on, with the fucking manliness inside. We don't want you in the women's locker room, yo. Girls, we have to scream when we see men in the locker room. We got to scream rape. We got to scream no, because you know what? We don't know why they're in there. That could be your last opportunity to save yourself from a traumatic experience. We cannot tell the difference between a perverted man and a trans whatever the hell. No, we don't want you in the locker rooms with us. Fight for your own restrooms. Go to the boys' bathroom. Go to the all gender restrooms. Get the fuck out of the women's room. We don't want it. And some of you might say, why is she so aggressive? Because y'all not getting a picture. When we're nice, look what happened to us. We were being nice and empathetic and inclusive, and now they're like, bitch, this and that. No, girls, no. Y'all need to stop. Stop letting these men brainwash you. I know a lot of y'all like men, and y'all don't, I don't know, like y'all got men have some power over y'all, but y'all need to cut it loose. We are women. Stand for yourself. Use your brain, yo. Damn, this is so like, oh my God, I can't believe there are any women who support this.
So, yeah. Do you trust somebody who has that kind of rhetoric? We don't want you there. We don't care if you have dick on your cut or whatever. The way that she spoke about trans women, do we actually trust her to have been nice and polite and understanding and inviting when asking Alexis not to be naked in the locker room? Personally, I find that difficult to believe. If it was me that somebody was talking to in that manner, I might possibly become a little bit petty and not do what they want me to, which is not be naked and showing my genitals in the locker room. Because, listen, she's talking about, oh, men with big dicks displaying their genitals in the locker room. By the nature of what a penis looks like, it's always going to look like it's on display, right? It's kind of like your nose in the middle of your face. You can't have your face out and your nose not showing. That doesn't mean you are displaying your nose for everyone to look at, right? I do not believe that Tish is a reliable narrator, in that I don't believe that she tried to keep the peace at any point. And for that reason, I would not be mad at a trans woman for standing up against her for her right to exist as a trans woman in a women's space. There is something that the Madame Physique said at the end of her video that I found quite interesting.
Here, I went to the gym today. I was just up in there. I was kikiing with the girls. Who was here when that had happened? And what do we feel about it? And, everyone is saying it's because of the fact that the private parts were out. That is very triggering to women. So, again, the gym and the women, they're not transphobic. They don't have an issue with me in the gym. It is just about the comfortability that women expect in a women's only space. So, where do we go from here? I don't know. But these incidents are going to keep happening until we can define something that is like what is expected in these spaces.
It is a fact that the world moves faster than social norms. Things evolve quicker than we are able to adapt. Personally, my view and I don't want to say my history, but when I started to question things like gender and what it is to be trans and those kind of things, that was maybe 20 years ago, maybe more than that. Around the time when there was this actress who was in Orange is the New Black, and everyone was talking about how she is gender fluid and sometimes she embodies a male and sometimes she embodies a female. And to me, it did not make sense. What makes her more male or more female? Is it just because sometimes she's wearing a suit and sometimes she's wearing a dress? Is being male or female just reduced to what you look like, what you pass as in the world? To me, the idea of being trans didn't make sense in that I never subscribed to the idea of male and female as genders. When I was growing up, I was always seen as a tomboy, always. I was never into wearing skirts and makeup and all of that. I wasn't that girl, and I hated wearing dresses and having to wear like girlish shoes. I wanted to be in sneakers all the time. I didn't have many female friends. Most of my friends were boys. I absolutely hated it when people, especially my grandma, because my grandma always was telling me about, oh, une jeune fille de bonne famille ne fait pas. So a girl with good breeding doesn't do this and that. A young girl from a good family. It used to piss me off so much because to me, it didn't make sense. Why is there things that are allowed for girls and not for boys or the other way around? Why boys were allowed to do those things that I was told I wasn't supposed to be doing? Later on, I figured out the reason I felt that way is because I identify more with being non binary than being male or female, man or woman. To me, being trans didn't make sense because to me, being one or the other doesn't matter. If I had it my way, I would just opt out of the whole thing of gender and be just myself. And I have the biology that I have the body that I have. So I can carry babies and have children and all of that. I understand that. But that doesn't mean I have to do the whole performance of being a woman that society literally expects me to, because that doesn't represent me and it doesn't mean anything to me. Like, I like to wear makeup and stuff, but I don't see why a man couldn't wear makeup. Why it is okay for me to do it and it's not for a man to do it. Glad that there are some men who do it. Well, anyway, so this is one thing that I had to come to terms with in my own head. What is it like to be trans? What does it mean to be trans? But at the same time, there is this saying, like, there is no such thing as a perfect victim. There is also no such thing as a perfect trans person, because they are a person and nobody is perfect. We know that, right? When people are bringing up the past of Alexis and the fact that she was in prison for assaulting her ex girlfriend, and that now that she is trans, she took her ex girlfriend's name because her ex girlfriend was also named Alexis. And we are talking about how, oh, obviously she is trying to steal her ex girlfriend's identity. And that is the reason why she's pretending to be trans, so that she can go and expose herself naked in locker rooms with other women. That doesn't make any sense to me. It was the same that happened with Lily Tino. Because she has behaviors that people do not like, therefore, she can be stripped of her transness, because she is not a good representative of trans women. Therefore, we can just decide that, oh, no, no, she can't be trans because she's not nice. Some trans people are not nice, you know? There are not nice people in every category of person that exists in the world. Why couldn't somebody beat their ex girlfriend and go to jail and also be trans? Maybe she took her name as a way to be petty or whatever. Maybe. That doesn't mean she's not trans. I live by, I do not question what people tell me. You tell me you're trans, I don't care enough to try and debunk it or ask for proof or find proof that you are or you're not what you're saying you are. If somebody lies to me, it's not my responsibility. I am the one being duped. I don't go around questioning people's lived experiences. So until that person tells me I am not trans, if they tell me they are trans, then that's what they're gonna have to be. I don't think it matters whether or not they are trans. What matters is whether or not they are being respectful to the women whose space they want to occupy. Although having had bottom surgery, passing as a woman isn't a requirement of being trans, it is also not a requirement ever to be nude and on display in a place where penises are not expected, around people who are not aware that a penis would be there, irrespective of their past trauma or whatever. We will have to figure something out. Personally, I don't love seeing naked people in the locker room, no matter what genitals they have. That's not one of my favorite things in the world, for sure. I don't think I would be more uncomfortable if I saw a trans woman naked with a penis than if I saw a cis woman naked without a penis. There is always the possibility that Alexis isn't a trans woman and she went into the locker room naked in an attempt to stir up controversy and make some people upset. Absolutely. That there is definitely a chance, especially in the current political climate, that somebody would pretend to be a trans woman just to be a complete asshole in a female locker room in a gym in order to get kicked out, in order to paint trans women with this negative image because they don't like trans women, because they want something to be done against trans women. That is absolutely a possibility. We've seen Nick Crowder do stuff like that, right? where he would pretend to be a trans woman and act like an idiot and call people stupid for believing that he was what he said he told them he was. There is always a possibility that Alexis is a disgusting grifter on top of being a disgusting partner. But it's not my place to discuss who is allowed to call themselves trans and who is not, based on what length hair they have, or how much breast they have, or how little penis they have. So basically, this is all that I wanted to have a chat about today. As you can probably see, I've tried something a little different with my setup. I am using the back camera, but this time it didn't fall. This time I didn't use a mirror. I used one of those little monitors that mirror the image so that I could set up my frame. And I'm also using a microphone. I hope, oh my god, I hope everything goes fine with the recording and that the voice sounds good, and that I am then able to edit the video with the sound and add the videos from TikTok. Oh my god. I don't know why I'm giving myself so much work for a video most likely nobody's gonna see. But anyway, thank you very much for spending some time with me today. I hope to see you next time. We will talk about something completely different.